I am so excited to be here today. What an amazing, amazing week I've had. And it all comes down to the consistency of showing up in my business, in my life, and it really ties in with the self-control topic that we're going to be talking about today. Um, when I started on this journey of creating powerful purpose, I needed to gain control, self-control over myself, over my finances, over my mental and physical health. It was so important. So that's why I thought this topic, it was actually my power word this week was self-control. And by having this power word, it truly moved me forward to think more about the self-control that I needed to have in my business and in my personal life. And this week has been such an amazing testimony to the self-control that I'm starting to learn and create in my behaviors. So when I started off the week and I did my planning for the week, I looked at my calendar and I saw that I had a lot of different type of things going on this week that would need to draw my attention to, and that they weren't just normal everyday tasks that I had going on. So the self-control word was really, really important to help me navigate through this week. And when we talk about self-control, have you ever felt out of control in a tailspin because of time management, task management, the choices that you've made, right? And sometimes when we make these choices without being aligned with the purpose that we want to have in our lives, the self-control is very difficult to be in. So so I used to be a smoker. I know, but I was a smoker probably about 14 years ago. And it took a lot of self-control and self-discipline to stop smoking, because I was a smoker for many, many years. And I became a smoker because I was kind of like acting like a victim of my environment and a victim of the choices that I made in my life based on my environment. So I didn't have that self-control. I didn't have that self-discipline or that self-confidence, because I think they all go together, correct? I didn't have those pieces in my life, so I was a smoker because it just made sense to the path that I was on. And so when I decided and found out that I was pregnant, that was my trigger of self-control to stop smoking. And what I needed to do was I needed to interrupt my habit pattern that I had going on around smoking. I really needed to maybe change my pathway to going to work, because believe it or not, I knew how many cigarettes I could have if I went a certain path, drove a certain route to the office every day. So everything was based on that particular measurement. I went to places that you could actually smoke, or I found myself outside a lot and disengaged from what was going on inside or the party. So I lost that self-control based on my decision to be a smoker. So I want you to think about that. Are there things in your life that you base your decision on because of that one item that might take you out of control of who you really want? So my most popular and oldest hashtag nugget is live your life with purpose and not driven by those circumstances. And that I would truly attest to was from my smoking years and stopped smoking. So even though I was pregnant, I knew that, and at that time, that pregnancy, I lost that pregnancy, but I didn't go back to smoking after that, which would totally be a trigger, right? And then I got pregnant again right away. So knowing what those triggers are, stress, depression, it's just easier if I keep on doing this. There's all different kind of things that we say to ourselves that allow us to give ourselves that justification or permission to be in a place that we're not in control. So another area that I hear about and that I found myself was eating, the eating pattern. Had no control over that. And it was based because I was basing my decision on the lack of movement at the time, the lack of hydration, the bad food choices, all on my circumstances. So when we think about that self-control, what are the areas and the circumstances that we're tying our habit to? So if we're tying our habit to something that is a circumstance, taking a step back and thinking about that will be really important and help adjusting our self-control. So when we go through that, today I was, my husband, hi Michael, when I was going through this process of getting ready for this Facebook Live and talking about self-control, I was looking and thinking about what are the different areas, right? What are the different areas that we could go through and talk about? And I came up with 10 different ways for us to be able to achieve self-control. Because when we have control over ourselves, we're making better decisions. Like I said before, when I was a smoker, when I started controlling and having better control over myself, I was able to make better decisions, which aligned more with my purpose that I wanted to happen to be healthier and not my circumstances of my living arrangements at that particular time. So it's necessary in the process of our mindset to get better at identifying what it is that we need to be in control. And when we could identify that, then we're able to reach our specific goals. So when I identified that I no longer wanted to make bad choices around lack of movement, lack of hydration, eating poorly, all of a sudden my self-control kicked in. And then over the past 2 years, I've seen amazing results because of that self-control. It's not easy to adjust our habit form from going from a certain behavior to a different behavior, because sometimes it's easier to just continue doing what we're doing than adjusting our self-control to be in a better place for ourselves. Because when we stand inside of doing the same thing over and over again, no matter if it's good for us or not, it's still comfortable. And even though it's uncomfortable being there, it's still something we know. So taking these like 10 different ways of achieving our self-control, I'm gonna go through those 10 different ways. You decide which area makes the most sense for you. But I'm gonna challenge you to pick at least 1 or 2 of these ways to get started on something that you maybe want more self-control over. Number 1 is know your weakness. Know your weakness. So if your weakness is eating potato chips, know that weakness. Make that adjustment so those potato chips aren't there. If your weakness is spending money, make that adjustment of how you could maybe create a budget. So learning what your weaknesses are is the first way of achieving it. Number 2 is remove what tempts you. So as I was telling you before about when I was a smoker, What would tempt me is the path that I went to work, or what tempted me was the feelings that I had when I grabbed a cigarette to start smoking, right? Think about that. Think about what temptations you could take out of your life, or what circumstances. Or it was a specific restaurant we would go to. Take that temptation out and go to someplace else so we could break that habit loop that goes on. Number 3, set very clear, concise goals. Know exactly where you want to be. Envision yourself there. Create your roadmap to sanity around that. And you could get that on my website at powerful-purpose.com/resources. Download your roadmap to sanity. That will help you get clear around the goals you want to achieve, so you'll be able to identify where you want to make shifts to create that self-control. Okay? Hi, Carol. Build self-discipline. So now when you're building self-discipline, you're actually have to break the habit loop that you're in. And I have information around habit loops. If you want that information, reach out to me. I just did a group monthly coaching around habits and the habit loop in the Take Back My Life coaching system that I have, where my engagers get me on a monthly basis about topics, specific topics. So if you want to learn more information about that, feel free to reach out to me, and I'll definitely share that information with you. But building self-discipline, it's a learned behavior. So again, I keep on going back to use the smoking that I used to do as an example, so you could see that. So build self-discipline. So again, I needed to remove the temptations, but I needed to also work on my mindset around why it was not good for me to be doing that particular habit, because that habit was so natural to me that I did it without even thinking about it. So removing the temptations and then helping myself with my self-discipline around it and creating that clear vision and goal all go together. Create new habits. So what did I do? I changed my restaurants that I would go to. I would change the route I would take to work. I created new habits. But then what I also did was create new habits around what I would have been doing with that time that I smoked, with the money that I was spending on cigarettes. I created new habits of where that money would go. So that was awesome. Eating often and healthy, because when we stay hydrated and we stay moving and we're making good food choices and we're doing it on a regular small basis, as they suggest, to eat little small meals throughout the day, we keep our sugar level at an even keel. When we're not, just think about it, when you're hungry, what happens? Some of us get hangry, right? And we just make choices, either food choices we're making, or just give me something to eat. Our mindset changes. So when we keep ourselves healthy, right, and eat often, it allows us to be more in self-control and more self-disciplined. So that's actually tip number 6. Tip number 7, change your perception about your willpower. If you have limited willpower beliefs, then that's what's going to end up happening. So we change our perception. So say with me, I've always had this outlining, eat healthy, then uneat healthy, exercise, and then don't exercise. And I always had this yo-yo effect with that until I changed my perception around it. It made my willpower stronger, because I knew exactly what I wanted. Before, I could never, I'm telling you, never see myself losing weight, getting stronger, getting healthier. But once I changed my perception around it, I'm not saying it was easier, but it just made it more attainable to keep on doing it. And then you start seeing the results. And once you start seeing results from your change, you got to get over that hump to start seeing results. Then you want to continue to move forward with that willpower and getting that self-control, because it's so exciting on the other side of it. It's so exciting. Give your permission, give yourself like a backup plan, right? So all of a sudden you're doing something and that's not working anymore. Have a backup plan. And that goes with, you know, being able to give yourself permission if you fall off. You can fall off and you can feel a little defeated around that, but don't stay there too long, right? Because if we stay there too long, then we're going to be slipping back into the habit of losing the self-control over what we want to happen. So create that backup plan. So if my backup plan back in the day when I smoked was, I'm out with a group of people and we're going to end up going to a place, because back then, and I'm dating myself, you were able to smoke in restaurants and bars and stuff. And we ended up going to a place that was a trigger point for me. I had to have a backup plan. Maybe we sat in a different place. Maybe when other people were smoking or went outside, I didn't go with them. Maybe I ordered something different. You know, just have that backup plan that will trigger the positive moving forward. And speaking of that, I'm all about picking the power word. And most of you know that, who are my clients or follow me on social media platforms, is that every week I have my power word. And this week was self-control. So pick a word that's going to be that trigger. So when you say that word to yourself, it's going to trigger open the thought loop to get you back on track of self-confidence. When you reach and you've done this for a while, celebrate. Have a celebration that will align to what you just gave up, okay? So sometimes people will lose 10 pounds and they're like, I'm gonna have a pizza. That may work for some, but I know it doesn't work for me. So maybe my reward is going shopping for a new pair of jeans because I'm down 2 dress sizes or pant sizes. Align something with the reward that's actually going to reward you to move forward in your self-control, okay? And then, as we said before, is make sure you forgive yourself and move forward if you slip, right? So that goes with that backup plan. So those are the 10 ways that we could take control of our self-control. And I'd love to hear from you on what you want help in and what you're going to take control in of your self-control. And every Friday I'm here on a Facebook Live and I share my Friday planning series, because being a productivity and a leadership coach, I truly help people find their inner leader. And by using the time and task tools to help them get there, it creates such an amazing world in their lives, their businesses, or their careers. So I love coming here every Friday. And every Friday I come here, I started on a Friday morning, but now I come to you at noon on Eastern every Friday. But I still have my coffee mug. And oh my, so this week, the coffee mug that I am going to feature is an absolutely amazing gift that my husband gave me. Almost a year ago, we had to put down my 16-year-old Jack Russell Terrier, Ziggy. And some of you who coach with me or are friends and family know how spirited Ziggy was. And always barking in the background and ready to address people at the door on many different levels, but he was very spirited, and he just totally filled my heart. And even though it was difficult at the end, being with him and seeing him suffer, he is missed. I miss him. Like, I could cry right now. I miss him tremendously. The house is very quiet. So because of the anniversary that's coming up, my husband, Michael, my wonderful soulmate and best friend, got me this mug, and I want to share this mug this week with you. It says "Forever in My Heart," which is beautiful, and on the back side of my mug is a picture of me and Ziggy sitting on a dock. So he's always going to be in my heart, and it's amazing how much animals touch us, right? So thank you so much, honey, for getting me that, and it's an honor to share that. And that just shows the transition my life has made over the past 10 years. If we knew each other 10 years ago, for anybody who's watching, a hot mess to now, and how life has just been absolutely tremendous and has changed. And I do chalk that up to having faith and having God in my life, and also for having the willpower and the self-confidence and the self-direction, and building an amazing dream team around me to get me to this point in my life. So I love you, Michael. And just thank you for everybody who continues following and supporting the amazing work that I get to do. Until next time, have a dynamite week, and God bless.